just hold on and suck in.
For her memorable role as Mammy in Gone with the Wind, Hattie McDaniel became the first African-American to win an Oscar.
It was a real milestone in the Academy's history and in film history.
But it also created controversy.
She played this maid in Gone with the Wind as Mammy. She was so much more.
She was given an Oscar for a role which really demeaned people of African descent.
She gave her Oscar to Howard University to inspire students. But now, no one knows where it is.
I can only figure that if someone walked off with it in 1968.
Was it stolen? Perhaps misplaced?
Maybe on eBay someday we will find this Oscar.
Or thrown in the Potomac?
I think it's sleeping with the fishes.
The unsolved mystery, next on Hattie's Lost Legacy.
Hattie's Lost Legacy is brought to you by Cancer Treatment Centers of America, winning the fight against cancer every day. And Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car insurance.
When the Avalon first opened in 1923, movies were silent. Then came the talkies. And then in 1939, Gone with the Wind was one of the first Technicolor epics. And in that same year, Hattie McDaniel won an Academy Award for her portrayal as Mammy. She was the first African-American to ever be nominated for an Oscar, and probably the first to ever attend Oscar night. It would be another 24 years before another black actor, Sidney Poitier, would win for his role in Lilies of the Field.
And the winner is Monique, in Precious, based on the novel Push by Sapphire.
Last year, when Monique won for her riveting portrayal in Precious, she proved that even today, the name Hattie McDaniel still stirs hearts.
I want to thank Miss Hattie McDaniel for enduring all that she had to so that I would not have to.
That night, Monique wore a brilliant sapphire dress and gardenias in her hair. It was a moment that was meant to be.
We get a letter from Simone Sheffield, along with a gardenia. And she is friends with the McDaniel family. And she said this is the flower that Hattie McDaniel wore in her hair the night she won the Oscar. So it was a no-brainer. We pick out the blue dress because that's the same color Hattie McDaniel wore that night. And then as I'm getting ready and getting prepared, we're watching the video as Hattie McDaniel is accepting her Oscar. It was a feeling of, wow, I'm watching this woman years ago, before I was even born, walking this journey and accepting this amazing award, and now I sit in the position of being nominated for this award. And because of that woman, I could sit in that position. So it was just an amazing feeling.
Right now, the second season of her show on BET tops her agenda. Monique plans a Hattie McDaniel biopic in the future, but she's in no rush.
It's so much research because when I am allowed to play her, I want to make sure I am her in that action. When they say action, I would love for Hattie McDaniel to be looking down saying, "You're doing me right."
When Hattie's Lost Legacy returns, how Hattie McDaniel made her mark in Hollywood.
She was making an income that was unheard of for that time, to be a woman and to be black, and was just not willing to lay down. She kept going and kept pushing forward.
I'll see you later, Lieutenant.
Here at the Avalon Theater, they've probably screened hundreds of classic movies like Gone with the Wind. Based on Margaret Mitchell's best-selling novel of 1936, it promised to be a cinematic tour de force. Producer David O. Selznick pumped up public interest by launching a worldwide search to find the actress who would play his heroine, Scarlett O'Hara.
But the competition for the role of Mammy was equally intense. Today, it is hard to imagine anyone else in the role but Hattie McDaniel.
No, you ain't. You can't show your bosom for 3 o'clock. I'm going to speak to your ma about you.
With her commanding performance in the sprawling Civil War tale of Southern life, Hattie McDaniel made Oscar history.
Keep the shawl on your shoulders.
But Hattie's journey to stardom and critical acclaim was a long one. Her father, Henry McDaniel, was born a slave and fought for the Union Army. Growing up, Hattie often performed with her brothers and sisters in minstrel shows. Following in her brother Sam's footsteps, she moved west to join him and her sister Etta in Hollywood in 1931. Kim Goff Cruz never knew her famous great-great-aunt, but she repeats stories her dad Edgar tells about Hattie.
So the three of them were really very much in Hollywood, and we used to rehearse lines together, which was kind of fun. They would rehearse the line in dialect and make fun of some of the language, but make sure that they got their line cold.
After years as an extra, Hattie began to get better parts, like this one in Alice Adams with a young Katharine Hepburn. But her role in the 1934 film Judge Priest gave her a chance to show off the song and dance skills she had learned as a child.
Tomorrow he's got to be like Mr. Sampson, saving Daniel from the lion's den.
Performing alongside one of the most popular entertainers of the day, Will Rogers, the part of Aunt Dilsey helped raise her profile, won her praise, and led to other parts, like the role in Lost in the Stratosphere.
You're funny, Ida. First you accuse me of being in love, and then you try to convince me I'm not.
Oh, you was in love, all right, but not with Lieutenant Wood. You was in love with Lieutenant Cooper, and you knows it.
Later, she played Queenie in Showboat, appearing with the acclaimed singer Paul Robeson. When Gone with the Wind went into movie production, other actresses lined up to try out as Mammy. Legend has it, Hattie edged out the competition by showing up for her audition dressed in costume.
Gala days in Dixie. Streamlined Wings of the Wind bring Hollywood to Atlanta for a history-making world premiere of the motion picture epic Gone with the Wind.
By December of 1939, Gone with the Wind was one of the most anticipated movies of its time. Its flamboyant producer, David O. Selznick, and the city of Atlanta threw a lavish party to celebrate. Thousands lined the streets for a glimpse of the stars.
Glamorous Vivian Lee takes a bow as heroine Scarlett O'Hara.
Though Selznick invited Hattie, segregation laws in Georgia kept her from attending. When Clark Gable threatened to boycott the event on Hattie's behalf, she urged him to attend and help promote the film.
Gone with the Wind writes history, a new chapter in film triumphs.
She lived in that parentheses of sanctioned discrimination. It was a dirty time in American history.
Instead, Hattie attended the Hollywood opening. She even felt the sting of discrimination again on Oscar night.
She and I think her date were seated at their own table. They were not with the other nominees from Gone with the Wind or really with anybody else.
It was such an insult to her and her race.
It is with the knowledge that this entire nation will stand and salute the presentation of this plaque that I present the Academy Award for the best performance of an actress in supporting roles during 1939 to Hattie McDaniel.
When she won and she got to go to the front of the room, imagine the significance of that, just the geography of that room and her march to the front.
And I shall always hold it as a beacon for anything that I may be able to do in the future. I sincerely hope I shall always be a credit to my race and to the motion picture industry. My heart is too full to tell you just how I feel. And may I say thank you, and God bless you.
There's no question that the fact that she was the first black, not just actor, but any kind of artist to win an Academy Award was a real milestone in the Academy's history and in film history.
Hattie basked in the Oscars' glow, posing for publicity photos and enjoying the headlines in black newspapers like the California Eagle. But even before her award, Some in Hollywood had begun to criticize her and other African-American actors for accepting roles demeaning to their race.
Give us a taxi, boy. Come on, Ida.
Nobody was offering black actresses work as judges or scientists at that point in history. She did what she could, and she made an absolutely terrific career out of it. So even though she mostly was relegated to playing maids, she did that with a distinct flair.
Hey, cut them monkey shine.
If you paid attention in the maids that she played, she always ran the household. She was always the voice of reason.
Hattie continued to work, sometimes with her brother Sam, in movies like The Great Lie. Hattie's stock answer to her critics: "I'd rather make $700 a week playing a maid than $7 being one."
But fundamentally, she thought the audience was smart enough to be able to put something in the context and not assume that that was her.
She said, "In my home, I am Hattie McDaniel. On the screen, I play a fine maid." So she was able to separate that.
Off-screen, Hattie lived in style, often dressing in furs and driving around Los Angeles in her green Packard. When she married her third husband, James Lloyd Crawford, she threw the party of the social season. Here's what her great-nephew Edgar remembers about his aunt.
She was a woman of substance, and I think that's the way he thought of her, and that's the way he describes her when he talks to me about her. She was the life of the party, very family-oriented.
But Hattie was never to have a family of her own. She divorced, married, and divorced again before the decade was over. When she bought a home in historic West Adams, her neighbors sued, claiming black residents violated the community covenant. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court before the angry neighbors lost, and Hattie was saved from eviction.
I have a date tonight.
A date with a boy?
Sure.
Over time, Hattie found work in Hollywood drying up. Times and roles had changed. The Big Wheel was her last movie. In all, she appeared in more than 300 movies, playing a maid in 93 of them.
Ed Wynn. Well, I'd like to hear you do it. Will you?
When there wasn't a movie, she was still okay because this woman was a comedian. She was a singer. She was a dancer. She was still able to carry on when Hollywood said, "Well, we don't have a script for you."
Some of these days, you're gonna miss me, honey.
In search of a new venue, Hattie reinvented the role of Beulah for CBS Radio, attracting 20 million listeners every week. When that popularity led to a television series, Hattie moved onto the small screen with her usual energy.
Well, that looks pretty good.
Oh, it does, Beulah. It ought to. The prices they're charging, I didn't know whether to cook it or deposit it.
I think she was someone who had very big talent, very big dreams, and was always looking for ways to express that talent.
But Hattie filmed only 2 episodes of Beulah before she fell ill with breast cancer. Within a year, she was dead. Thousands attended her funeral as her death made front-page headlines in the Eagle and the Los Angeles Times.
She wanted to be buried in Hollywood forever. She expressed that, and then her secondary request, in case they don't let somebody of my race be buried there. I mean, can you imagine? Her secondary request was Rosedale.
On November 1st, 1952, Hattie McDaniel was laid to rest in the Angeles Rosedale Cemetery. Even in death, it seemed, she could not escape second-class treatment. In one of her final acts, Hattie McDaniel willed her most valued possession, her Oscar, to Howard University.
In handing that most coveted prize to Howard University, she handed them over the right to be a steward of that prize.
It was her sense that that was a good place. It was a safe archive. She also wanted to make sure that she encouraged, as she did throughout her life, young actors to continue to pursue their dream.
When Hattie's lost legacy returns, the mystery of her missing Oscar.
What's so shocking about the loss of this Oscar is that it was lost at Howard University, a place that would have special reverence for this award because it was such a breakthrough for black culture.
In 1940, Hattie McDaniel went on a publicity tour for Gone with the Wind. When she stopped in Washington, she was invited to a luncheon here at Howard University. It must have made quite an impression because this is where she chose to bequeath her Academy Award. Years later, her historic Oscar was reported missing. When we contacted the university late last year, we were surprised by the response.
Thanks for your email. According to the university archives, we do not have a record of receiving Hattie McDaniel's Oscar.
It's pretty cowardly of Howard University to claim we have no record of ever having received it, so therefore we can't speak publicly about it now. It was seen by thousands of people in this glass case on your campus.
TBAAL'S graduated from Howard University in 1966, and he remembers seeing Hattie's Oscar and even holding it in his hands.
It was unlike the Academy Award that we have today. It looked like a little gravestone.
When Hattie McDaniel received her Oscar, recognition for supporting roles had been introduced just a few years earlier, and the now classic statuettes were not awarded in those categories.
To indicate, I guess, that it wasn't the full leading performance award, they gave them what the Academy calls a plaque.
Now a dean at Montclair State University, Jeffrey Newman wasn't too impressed when he saw it in the Howard Drama Department back in the late 60s.
I remember seeing it specifically because it didn't look like an Oscar. I mean, it really wasn't much to look at.
Later, the Motion Picture Academy would change that policy and present the full statuette to all winners. Confusion about Hattie's Oscar was further fueled by publicity photos.
Don't recall seeing a picture of her with the plaque. They faked it as if she had gotten a statuette. I don't know why that picture exists to this day, but it's very confusing.
According to one theory, it vanished during student protest on campus in the late 1960s. Those turbulent times created chaos.
All the classes were either canceled because of a bomb threat or students had come in and taken over the building.
We called students over here to sit in.
Back then, many students at Howard held treasures like Hattie McDaniel's Oscar in contempt.
The fact that she was given an Oscar for a role which really demeaned people of African descent was so opprobrious to me that had I known that it was there, I would have destroyed it.
While many Howard alums from the protest days say they didn't even know McDaniel's Oscar was on campus, the political climate made it a natural target for rage.
Once they found out it was there, they would have, in keeping with the times, plotted to make a point at it being there or not.
One theory, which may be nothing more than an urban legend or a convenient explanation, is that protesting students seized the Oscar and then threw it into the Potomac.
If I were an African American in the late 1960s dealing with the cities of America in flame and the government still not responsive to my civil rights, I might throw something away that was the emblem of that offense. I could get that. Do I believe it happened? No. It's an interesting theory.
Out in Hollywood, Tom O'Neill writes about all kinds of awards, including Oscars, for the LA Times and Vanity Fair, among others.
In all likelihood, it was stolen by somebody who had access to it when no one was looking. That's what happens to these things all the time. And then they tend to surface in flea markets, or they pop up at bizarre auctions. Maybe on eBay someday we will find this Oscar.
I own this one, Hattie McDaniel, Gone with the Wind, 1939, as Mammy, the strong and indomitable one. But I love it. I love Hattie McDaniel. She was a must-have for me.
Tom Gregory's Beverly Hills home holds his unique collection of autographed photos, memorabilia from Hollywood's golden age, and yes, a couple of Oscars.
People know Tom Gregory would buy it, you know. Ding dong, you know. I put it out there now for at least 2 or 3 years that I'm in the market for the darn thing. It's never been offered to me.
In an article for the Washington Post last year, Howard offered up the possibility that her Oscar might still turn up, perhaps in a box like Bojangles' bronze shoes did several years ago.
If it's in a box somewhere, you know, now, come on, Howard, you know, find some people and you know, go through your box.
Howard has had some serious issues with competency over the years. I don't dismiss at all the possibility that it was just plain lost as opposed to purloined.
We may never know what became of Hattie McDaniel's missing Oscar. When Hattie's lost legacy returns, some thoughts on her enduring impact. We requested an interview with the president of Howard University several times to discuss Hattie's missing Oscar. That request was denied.
Ironically enough, the drama department that Hattie so admired also disappeared in the late 70s. But even though Hattie and her Oscar are now gone, her star continues to shine.
Visitors to Grauman's Chinese Theater find Hattie's radio star only steps away on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Her contribution to the movies is immortalized near the landmark crossroads of Hollywood and Vine.
I have talked to black artists who in the 60s were very dismissive of her accomplishments, who now have come around to seeing, wow, she was actually a great pioneer.
In 1998, her family made sure one of her last wishes came true. They dedicated this pink marble memorial to her at Hollywood Forever. But the puzzle of what to do about the missing Oscar remains unsolved. According to the Motion Picture Academy, Howard University did request a replacement.
This award means so much to so many people, not just African Americans, but people who love cinema history and civil rights history and are respectful to all of that. We need to find this Oscar or have it replaced.
The Academy's policy is very firm. We have occasionally replaced a statuette into the hands of the actual winner. We really don't replace statuettes that have fallen out of the hands of the original recipient.
There are exceptions to every rule, and this is a case of where the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences should acknowledge the historic importance of an award won by Hattie McDaniel and issue it again.
According to notes from Edgar Goff, the closest keeper of Hattie's legacy, the McDaniel family would like a healing moment too.
So my father has made it very clear that he would like to see either it found, and then, you know, we still have hope that it will be found, replaced if possible, but if not, at least their acknowledgement that she did receive the statue.
The current leaders of the Academy may be stubborn and say, we're not going to budge, but somebody has to have a heart in Hollywood. Don't they?
So far, there's no Hollywood ending to our mystery story. We may never learn the fate of her Oscar, but we can only hope that Hattie McDaniel's legacy will continue to live on for generations to come. I'm Robin Hamilton. Thanks for watching.
It should be restored to that university by the Academy. Her wishes should be fulfilled.
If it is gone, as some suggested, in the Potomac River, that is the appropriate place for it to be.
We must hold on to her legacy. It's an important part of the fabric of America.
I think the time has come, and it's the right time to do it. And it's the right thing to do. We love you, Hattie.
Hattie's Lost Legacy has been brought to you by Cancer Treatment Centers of America, winning the fight against cancer every day. And Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car insurance.